Good
Hello.
afternoon, everybody. Hello, hello. We've got two lovely guests with us this today. A KoreCast alumni, Mahler JM, and
Hello,
new
friends.
Slane. Hello, Slane.
Hey.
Um, so I invited these two gentlemen here because I have a feeling we three are like probably the best mentally prepared for talking about good retro games. Was listening to what he was saying to Slane about his favorite style of games back in the day.
Yeah, I grew up a
So
lot on RPGs for the most part.
yeah,
Saying,
RPGs.
yeah.
That seems like all of us. Like the very first RPG game that I ever played was Quest for Glory, which is a retro PC game.
I am familiar with this. It is a
Uh,
that is a thing. That is a
retro
game.
That is a game. It is a series of games, a series of RPGs that I still say to this day will never get old. I don't think it will.
The first
It,
RPG I ever played was like Final Fantasy 1,
yeah,
and I
between
put
What?
it for me,
so
it's
much
between
time
that
into
or
it.
Dragon Warrior 1 for sure.
Yep,
Ooh, Dragon Warrior.
that was a
Jeez.
good one too.
Back on the nest.
Oh, what was the other one that was more actiony? I think it was called Hydlide. Another
Mm,
NES one.
I think so.
I think, yeah, before that, it was always City Builders, the original Sim City
Oh
on
God,
like the old Windows 95 system.
Oh
I
yeah.
remember that
yes.
so
That
vividly.
Space Cadet pinball.
Ah, Space Cadet
Yes,
Pinball.
yes.
You
That
you
definitely qualifies as a retro game.
You realize
Mhm.
Space Cadet Pinball was supposed to be brought into future editions of Windows, but they could never get the 64-bit emulation of it right.
Oh, I can see that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was like everything was off, just like slight hair here and there. Like you can find it on a copy of Windows XP 64-bit Windows
Mm.
XP, and it shows how that game had seriously messed up with us going from 32-bit to 64-bit.
Yeah, there's still websites out there that have archived a lot of that old stuff that you can't buy or find anymore.
Yeah, yeah. Uh, Abandoned software sites.
Yeah.
Good sites. Good sites. I feel like software that has been abandoned should still be should be available to the public, so people can still enjoy a good retro game.
Well, if
Like
There's a
Nintendo gets their way, that's not going to be the case.
no,
right.
no.
Well, I mean, there's still shops out there, right? That there's a shop just down the road from my house here in Michigan where it's a retro shop, literally retro video game shop, and I'm actually really curious to see how far back they go. You know,
Right.
do they go as far back as like the old systems before the commercial systems really
If
hit?
people come into the stores and stuff is collectible, absolutely.
I
But
would
as
say
far as
so.
you
Yeah.
guys are concerned, you guys have a great place in the States called East Starland. It's a giant warehouse for used video games and stuff like that. It
Really?
is
I've heard of
the
it.
foremost place to go to buy used stuff.
Hmm. Okay.
I'll have to look that up. Definitely hit that up there.
Yeah.
Um, Slane brought up a good idea, defining what retro actually is,
Right.
because he completely threw me for a loop when he what he described as retro. And it was like, wait, what? I'm
Yeah,
not that old.
it's a really interesting perspective, right? So we're
Right.
considering anything that's to be retro now that's 3 generations or older now. So we're looking at anything that's from the PS2 and Xbox generation and the Wii and older.
Yeah,
So it's still a little bit more recent than you would
And
think.
and that kind of fits, right? Because I actually have some friends who have been playing like old Assassin's Creed games,
Hmm.
and they consider
mm,
Assassin's Creed 1, which was a 2007, I don't know, like Xbox 360 or I don't, was it
Yeah,
even earlier?
Xbox
yeah, it's
360 and
360.
PS3.
Yeah. And of course, that is
Yeah.
considered in a lot of ways to be retro now, which
Yeah,
would mean that Assassin's
Wow.
Creed 2, Assassin's Creed 3,
Brotherhood.
think, those you could definitely tie those in as well. Uh,
absolutely.
Wow. Just
mhm,
just the thought of some games
crazy.
that like isn't that old to us is
It
retro
really
now.
isn't. Yeah.
Well, the nice thing
Um,
is we have this platform, right, that is able to recycle them for use on the current systems, such as
right.
Steam, right? Steam is taking
Yeah.
2007 games and recycling them to the
With a
point
lot
where,
more companies re-releasing
yeah,
a lot of their old stuff
right,
Right.
either as is or in a reformatted state, like Square Enix
100%.
re-releasing Final Fantasies 1 through 6 as the pixel remasters.
Right, right.
There, yeah,
Good old games, GOG also is a
Yeah.
great website for retro style games.
percent.
Like Witcher would fall under that retro style of games if you think about it with how old it is.
That's
OG Witcher absolutely was a PC game, and yeah,
Wow.
it doesn't it hasn't aged that well.
Oh no.
well, no, I mean the new one has got a lot of hype and it's actually pretty beautiful,
I actually
nice,
remember
but
buying
yeah,
the first one, and my PC specs weren't good enough, so that I would have artifacts and stuff just disappear from my game and stuff. It was just graphically messed up. It was hilarious to play.
Oh man.
well, it's
Like
kind of funny. Some of these franchises are spamming between both retro and current, right?
Yeah.
mhm.
Like for example, Fable.
Yep.
Fable is on its, well, will be when it finally releases number 4, which they're
Hmm.
still talking about 23. They've been talking about it for 5 years now. But I didn't realize that Fable 3, which if you played it was a beautiful game, it was a lot of fun, is
Right.
15 plus years old now.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah, it's like
And it was
if you
a
think
wonderfully ambitious series as
Beautiful.
well.
Yeah, 100%.
They
100%.
tried to do
very
some real
very
innovation with
ambitious.
storytelling and multiple endings, and while they didn't get all of it right, they were still an absolutely beloved series.
Yeah. And I would
Well,
say it was one of the first system or first games that also introduced a sort of paragon system, right? Where you could
Yes.
become
yeah.
good versus evil, and it changed the gameplay and it changed
Right, right.
the interaction you
Or
had
at
with
least made the
NPC.
alignment more visible to the player as well, because there's
100%.
a lot of
That
games that have hidden values like that, and
Right.
it's nice to actually see something like on your heads up display showing that you
Yeah.
actually are one way or the other.
oh,
Yeah.
look, I have horns now. Ha ha
Yeah. Yeah. Like
ha.
everybody in every town I go into who's like, oh,
Right, right.
because I always play evil. If you guys don't, that's me.
Well, that's
Smaller
because you're
evil?
so evil.
No.
So evil,
Never,
Mullerman.
never. I know.
Um, I was gonna ask you guys both, like, what was your oldest game that you remember playing first? Like, what was the
Mario
first
1,
Oh,
game
three
you
years old.
remember? Mario
Cri-
1, 3 years old.
yeah,
Wow.
Christmas 1990.
I'm gonna date myself significantly here because I was 12 or 13 when NES came out. Okay,
Fair enough.
and my mom kicked my butt at Mario One, but that was a long time ago. But the first system we ever had was a system called Intellivision, and it
Hmm.
was
Oh my
precursor
god.
to Atari. It was a corded controller with a disc on it, and
Hmm.
you slid a little plastic card in the number pad, and it had your controls on it. We played legitimately 3 or 4 pixel D&D and Pitfall on
Yes.
on that system, and it was
Yeah.
one of the first, yeah, that old school.
I'm going to go that pretty much as old as you are. The very first retro game retro game that I can remember playing was actually for a computer-based system, a personal computer system called the TI-99-4A.
Isn't that a
These
calculator?
TI-99As are calculators. TI-99-4A was the newest, biggest computer that you could get back in 1981.
The
And it
size
had
of a
disc.
bedroom. Oh,
It had disc sliding cartridges that you slid a cartridge right in, and you could have games on these cartridges or programming software on these cartridges. And
So predating even floppy disks.
yeah, well, it did have one release in '82, the external storage, which added the 5.25 single density.
Mm.
Single density. It's like, wait, what? That's old.
Yeah, we're talking really old hardware.
yeah.
The game that I remember playing on it was Munchman. It's a
Precursor to
Pac-Man clone.
Pac-Man?
It's
Yeah.
a Pac-Man clone. It was a Pac-Man clone. You were this tiny thing that ran around in this maze trying to fill it full of a pattern and to prevent enemies from going across the pattern and that type of stuff. It was really a bad video game.
A lot of stuff back then, well, there was just so much in terms of limitations of the hardware, you couldn't really make good.
Right. Well, you're talking about 8-bit technology.
Well, even then and before,
sorry,
like
4-bit.
just programming in
4-bit.
general was just such a new language.
Yeah.
Right.
100%. You guys remember the old karate game on the Macintosh?
Oh,
yes.
God,
It was literally just called karate.
Yes.
I remember playing a lot of that kind of stuff back in elementary school. They had Apple II computers and all that stuff on floppy disks. You played Number Muncher and all that crap.
Oregon Trail.
Yes, Oregon Trail, absolutely.
I played Oregon Trail on a 386. I remember that.
You know, I still
5 floppy disks.
I still to this day play Oregon Trail just for shits and giggles, you know.
Is it still text-based or did they added graphics to it? Because it was pretty much text-based except for the hunting, which was very pixelated when I was playing it. It was a long time ago.
I just played the text-based one still.
Okay.
Back in the day, that's like, well, these days we have conventional roguelike games, and back then, Rogue was the one thing you had, or Oregon Trail was a text-based, randomly generated scenario. That's what we had.
Oh, look,
you
just got dysentery.
I was going to say, I was going to make this a very similar comment because I don't know about randomly generated, but dysentery seemed to be pretty common, okay?
Insanely common.
Always. Oh my gosh.
So you both talked about Mario 1. I didn't get to play Mario 1 until I was like 12.
Yeah. That's me.
Yeah, the system was out for a little bit by that period of time. So
remember we got Nintendo the first year it came out, that Christmas. And it was insane that it cost $100.
Right. $100. Oh my God!
Just the other day, and they were also $100 near the end of their lifespan. So you think about going and buying retro consoles these days, and them being about $100 or $200. Honestly, it's cheaper now due to inflation.
Oh, it's 100% cheap. 100% cheaper. $100 today is much less than it was.
Oh, absolutely.
You know, back in 1990, right?
Back when your minimum wage was a quarter of what you have now.
I mean,
right?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. And the one thing I really love, and I don't know if a lot of new gamers could deal with it, is the challenge and the difficulty tier that old games had compared to today. And it was because they had to put everything, because they didn't have a save, right? You didn't have a lot of saves.
That's one consideration for why games were not so great back then.
One
uh,
consideration, right?
I
Yeah,
just
you had to sit down and do it.
I just pulled this up because Muller mentioned the price. $100 was the original price of the NES, Nintendo Entertainment
Yep,
System, when it originally came out in
yep.
1983.
Mm-hmm.
1983 was its release date. Um,
83 was the
yeah,
NES.
83.
Mm-hmm.
I was old. Wait,
A lot
Nineteen
of
there's
eighty-three.
no
the
way.
really known games from the NES genre or era are 1985 and 87.
Yeah, yeah.
I swear I was
But
older when
but
we got that system. Maybe
but
not.
if you think about it, 1983's $100 is the equivalent of $300. I was at I was at Walmart last night, getting a few little odds and ends for the house, and I went through electronics just to see if they had any Switches available. They had the special edition Switch for $300. So I was like, if you think about it, the Nintendo systems really hasn't changed prices.
Not a
No,
whole
of
If you
lot,
course
think
no.
not.
about it.
No. Well, your market bore, or would bear $100.
Mm-hmm.
Your games, $50.
I mean,
Mm-hmm.
the only
And
Nintendo console that really
it
wasn't worth
was,
the value at all was the Wii U. It was overpriced for that
Oh,
awful tablet.
yeah.
Jesus.
Well, there was a couple of systems that came
Whew.
out that were
Can we
very
can, can
much
can we pretend the Wii U
not
never
valuable.
existed?
I mean, there were some pretty
Oh,
fantastic first-party games that came out on it, but outside of that, yeah.
like
Yeah.
wasn't original Mario Maker on the Wii U?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely
Yeah,
was.
okay. I think that was the only game I wanted on the Wii U.
Yeah.
I think the
Original
original Mario
Animal
Maker was.
Crossing was in that time frame as well, right?
Animal Crossing was on.
2001.
Ooh, it was
Was
older.
that,
That
wait,
had to be GameCube.
Yeah, I think it was
okay.
GameCube.
Okay. Yeah, I think the worst system I've ever purchased in my life was the Sega Saturn. And
That's
Hey,
a
don't
that's a
diss the
it
very good
was
Saturn.
console with very little support.
it was pushed out
It
so
was
fast during
it
the
was it was ahead of
console
its
wars.
time. It was ahead of its time. It would have done better if they had pushed the release date back about 2 months,
Yeah, but they couldn't because
because they released
Sega,
it
yeah.
when they released it, it was right around oh, what is that big gaming convention? Oh
I don't
my
know.
god.
Yeah,
It happens
but I
every
think it
year.
E3 or whatever.
Yeah, E3. E3 it was E3 every year and they released, oh, let's introduce it at E3 and then put the release date a week or two after E3. Well,
Well,
it's
yeah.
not like E3 now where we can catch E3 highlights same day it happens,
Yeah,
or
literally an hour later.
watch the press
Yeah.
releases as they're happening. It was back when you still had magazines. So you were talking at least a month, maybe 2 months after
Yeah.
E3 that people would have heard anything from E3. So if they had pushed it back about 2 weeks or 2 months, they would have been a lot better off.
They were, unfortunately, I don't know if you guys have seen the movie that talks about the console wars, which is actually a really good view, a good watch. I think it's on
Mhm.
Paramount or something. But my understanding is that Sonic the Hedgehog was the whole reason why they pushed it out so fast.
Yeah.
Because Sega had just entered the market and were crushing the market share during that period of time.
With an
Mhm.
objectively bad game.
Not a great game, but it was uniquely different than what Nintendo had put out to that
Oh,
point.
absolutely.
Right.
Yeah.
Right? Top down, side scrollers. Now you had this really dynamic and super fast system that they hadn't seen before. Sonic was the fastest game that had come out to
Yes.
that point.
Yeah.
I mean, as far as it's,
Outside
able
of
to
a
be
literal racing car game, nothing really
Right.
went that fast.
exactly.
Right.
exactly. So, yeah, but hey, what we got? We got Firefox out of that game. Or what was it called? Whatever that the fox who was in the spacecraft, the
Oh,
spaceship.
Star Fox.
Star
Star
Fox.
Fox,
That was
yeah.
the best game I think that ever came out on this on that system. What a brilliant game though. That was one
Yeah,
of my
the
favorites.
Super Nintendo Entertainment System was Star Fox. Yes.
Yeah,
Caught
you were
that one
Star
too.
Fox 1 and 2.
Ooh.
2 that never
No,
came out in North
2
America
never
until,
never came
well,
out.
it
2
came
officially never
out.
came out. It came out with the special edition mini.
Yeah, with the mini, it did come out in Japan
Yes, because the
because
Super
Japan
Famicom
gets everything that we
system,
don't.
Super Famicom was out for at least one more year when it was released over there, so they had time to enjoy it. But no, Nintendo of America um was getting prepared to start selling the N64, and they didn't want to have a really great game for the SNES to come out like months before the N64 did.
Well, the N64 wasn't even supposed to really happen.
No, it wasn't.
Nintendo and Sony were working collaboratively on the Nintendo PlayStation, which ended up being a massive flop. And there being a few Super Nintendo games that ended up being ported onto Super Nintendo that were supposed to be on the Nintendo PlayStation instead.
Yeah.
And that deal fell through in some sort of way, and yeah, we ended up with the N64 and the PlayStation instead.
Yep. Yep. Which I think it did spawn on a lot of creativity in gaming.
Yeah, bad for Nintendo. Good for Sony.
Bad for Nintendo, good for Sony,
I mean,
and I still say Nintendo has done quite well keeping
of
a
course.
steady pace going. They hit that stumbling block and then kept on going. It was like
It's stumbling
uh,
block that cost them 75% of
millions.
their market
Oh,
share. I mean,
Nintendo has just
but they were the
decided to
only
do.
ones, right? They were the
Like,
only
Nintendo's
ones.
just decided to do their own thing, right? They're pandering to the
Mm-hmm.
family audience now. Like,
Yep.
their numbers are far lower in overall sales than Sony or Microsoft these days, but they have their own share of the market. They have that
Yeah.
cornered, and nobody else has touched that.
Right. And I mean I think that's a good thing. A system that is purely dedicated to the family, Like I would say PlayStation and Xbox are geared towards uh young adults getting
Yeah.
into the gaming system, and then you get to the older people who have decided that the true master race is the PC. It's a long time standing joke, the PC master race. Waller,
Yeah.
don't look upset about that.
Not upset. I was 35 years on a console and then I built my PC, and I haven't
I
played on
just
my
think
console
that
since.
whatever you're able to enjoy games on and enjoy the
Exactly.
medium as it
I
Mhm.
agree.
is
I
whatever you got
agree.
available. It's fine.
And the
I
bottom line
agree.
is they're all closer to being PCs these days anyway.
This
There's
is
Yes,
no
true.
such, I mean, truly, like, hell, the Xbox has more computing power than that computer you were talking about probably 100 times. Um, your TI 8625,
TI
super,
99
super,
4A.
yeah, whatever.
By several hundred times.
Exactly.
Yes.
Like, I
Yeah.
mean, so
I
we've gone a long ways in 30 years. It's been
We sure have. Tech has made huge leaps and bounds.
right. Nowadays I can take this lovely thing right here and play a lot of retro games if I install an
Yeah,
emulator on
there are
here.
emulators for cell phones for sure.
Like I know
Wait,
of
I
a
thought
couple
cell
good
phones were
ones.
for calling people.
Well, these days, lots of people have a side game on their phones.
That's true.
Or multiple games.
I did have multiple games. I just dropped one because I just don't have the time.
Yeah, I don't. I haven't. Yeah, I can't game on my. No, what is time?
Whatever
Right,
you
right.
decide is most prioritized.
Right.
You're not wrong. You're not wrong.
And in our
That's
case, a lot of it's
hilarious.
video games.
It's true. Until
Geeky's in chat saying no one calls people Mueller.
yeah, no. Wait, what?
Geeky gamer girl.
I know who you're talking about. I just
Girl games. Sorry.
no one calls me.
Right. No one calls anybody on.
Oh, that
Yeah,
well,
we all
I
text
used my
and snap
phone an
people.
hour ago to call someone. What are
I
you talking
called
about?
somebody the other day. Okay.
Yeah, the
Isn't
amount of
your
times
job like calling people?
Yes, but obviously now everything's through the computer, right?
Slane doesn't count.
So we're using
Wow.
Yeah, we're using Teams, which of course has its own internet calling feature.
Right.
I can't remember the last time. I mean, other than like on the contractor for work on the house, where I've actually needed to use my phone versus say my PC. Because I can do the same thing on my PC as well, right? I can call.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean,
We have any number of applications available to us now to make virtual calls.
Oh,
like we're doing right now.
Right? No. We're all in the same room.
This is a scam.
We're all together. This is all a scam. Oh, stop pushing on me,
over
there. Yeah.
Oh. Okay.
Oh, I went the wrong way.
It's backwards. Everything's backwards. Everything's backwards. My gosh. But yeah, I mean, retro gaming was fun. It was definitely a different thing. But then again, it was so new, I think, especially when we first started, It was such a new industry. And so it had that freshness. Today,
but
they have to push the boundaries of scale in order to keep people engaged.
Well, think about it. Back then, without Mario, without even Pac-Man, we wouldn't be where we're at with gaming on the scale that we're at. Like, gaming would have never have taken off. We would all be like, it's time to go to work.
You never know, though. I mean,
or we'd have just developed a different franchise of something that would have just become as popular.
I think something else would have continued, would have perpetuated the gaming industry. Because you got to remember, the gaming industry started in the 70s, like even before that. There was old consoles that you put up like boards on your walls, and it had LEDs in it, and it sent signals to a big old computer control box, and you played certain weird old games. I saw that on the Pawn Stars episode where a guy brought in something from like 1971, and it was like literally you had this big paper sheet with LEDs in the back.
With LSD on it.
LSD, yes. That's how
leftover from the
60s, the 70s, and 60s. Yeah. 100%.
Well, if I've played any RPGs, like I think Earthbound was a game that was literally developed on LSD.
I think
it had to have been. It had to have been that.
A lot of artistic endeavors.
Earthbound is one of those games like, oh, it seems perfectly normal. Here's a weird left turn that completely turns you inside out. What?
That game had, it was zany for sure.
Let's just put most of our entertainment up in that classification, because there's no way that Beavis and Butthead would have ever been created without drugs. Okay, there's no way.
That's true.
That's South Park and these other shows. No way. I'm sorry.
And yet, South Park has become a show synonymous with education these days, and it's more educational than the Learning Channel.
It is technically.
In some ways, they definitely
because the learning the Learning Channel, Slane,
is
the amount
nothing
of
but
learning, the learning that you'll be doing is what not to do during your 90 days fiance type bull.
yeah, it's nothing but just overly dramatized garbage now.
Yeah.
History Channel, TLC, Discovery, all three
all
of them
switched
have
to reality shows.
completely went downhill when they went to reality shows.
Absolutely.
I like history. I like history. I like the old History Channel. Like, show me some black and white footage of World War II. Show me some. Give me a storyline like the reason why Halloween existed. Those type of things was what I watched History Channel for. Now it's like Curse of Oak Island. We're going to be discovering the gold of the Templars.
Or Survivor.
That actually sounds intriguing, but but yeah, entertainment is it's not about it. They don't care. You know, they don't care about education anymore. In a lot of ways, it's not entertaining. But the thing is, if you don't understand your history, you're doomed to repeat it, which we as human beings do all the time. But they would rather watch the Kardashians.
Right.
Enjoy. Do you, boo boo? That's what I say.
Right.
I'll still watch the History Channel and those old shows where I actually, you know, gain some perspective on the world and what has happened.
True. Okay. Good question for both of you.
Oh boy.
If you both had to choose what one classic retro video game everybody should play, what would it be?
If you had to choose just one game?
Just one game. One good classic retro game, and why would it be that? I'll start out here real quick. I think everybody should play the one RPG that I mentioned earlier, Quest for Glory.
You want to subject people to that?
Yes! Hey, at least I didn't tell them that they have to play the Tales of Zonk. Or yeah, I think it's Tales of Zonk. And no, I think everybody should play the good old Quest for Glory. I mean, you can play the VGA remastered of it. That's perfectly fine. I mean, the story's still the same, but I mean, it is a fantastic story, nonetheless. But if I had to pick like a console game for everybody to play, I would most definitely tell everybody play the Murderous Mario. Mario
Murderous
Brothers.
Mario?
Yes. Did you ever read the book for Super Mario Brothers?
No. I remember there was an old TV show.
In the book, Super Mario Brothers, it says King Koopa turned all of the subjects of the Mushroom Kingdom into blocks. The same blocks that Mario breaks throughout the mission. So he is a mass murderer.
Oh yeah, Mario's a murdering psychopath. We've known this for ages.
Yes, but it's like very much true after you look at this book. It's like, okay. Okay.
All right.
He murders all the toads.
Slane got one, but mine would be easy. Metal Gear 1.
Ooh.
The original OG Metal Gear.
Ooh.
It's got puzzles. Definitely a challenge.
It has a couple of lines of text intentionally left out of the game so that you have to call the Nintendo hotline. Well,
there's that, which is a good way for you to Google it after you play it. I don't know. I didn't know that.
Yeah, actually, that was a very that was actually an extremely common thing in the NES and Super Nintendo eras. was that when a game was localized from Japan to North America, they would intentionally leave lines of text out so that you wouldn't know where to go next. You'd have to either look at a strategy guide or call the Nintendo hotline and pay money to hear somebody hopefully give you the right answer.
Yes,
That's it.
here's our 1-900 number so you can get the help you need to get
Yeah.
through this. Sierra actually did that as well.
Yes,
with a few of
Sierra
their
did.
games.
But they were centered around a lot of point and click adventure games, so a lot of
Right.
that was a lot of trial and error to begin with.
Right. Like King's Quest.
I loved that
King's
series
Quest
growing
was
up, actually.
absolutely amazing. I loved that as well. Poisoning the damn wizard.
Okay, so my game. So if I had to recommend a single game for anyone, it'd be Super Nintendo, a game called Mega Man X. It's a great example of an incredibly
Ooh.
fair but good, tight action platforming game.
Mega Man X. That was a fantastic game.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I really enjoyed that one as well. It was one of the few Mega Mans I actually played.
Yeah, same.
Yeah.
Like I didn't play many of the Mega Mans. I did play a lot of the Metroids, but
I liked
also
Metroid
good.
1 was really good.
oh yes.
I remember the original one.
Yes. Like the let's try to beat it in 1 hour challenge.
Yeah, speed running is a thing.
Speed running. Let's speed run this game.
Paperboy SNES.
I liked
No.
I liked
Paperboy NES was a miserable game, and I believe we had to use Game Genie to cheat that game because it was so difficult.
that.
Oh
Was
God,
super,
yes.
Yeah, super hard game.
Yes.
Here, let's just have pixel perfect accuracy throwing a newspaper into a mailbox every single time.
Right. Especially pedaling down the street at like 5 trillion miles per hour. Oh, God, that game was a pain.
I feel like
I
there
don't
was
think
another
I don't.
perfection game out there too, Slane, that you probably like Dragon's Lair. Wasn't that the name of the game where
Dragon's Lair
seen
was a point and click adventure as well. I never really got into it.
there was an arcade
Really?
game where you were going through a dungeon.
Yeah, that's
and
Dragon's Lair.
Is that what?
Mm.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
And it had to be like every move had to be perfect.
Yes. Like
literally,
spot on
people just
perfect.
$10 worth of quarters just stuffing it into that game.
Welcome to arcade games.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I know they brought it to console at some point. I never played it though.
I'm trying to remember which of my many different ways of having video games. I actually have it. Like I have it on one. I have it in like GOG or Epic. I'm not sure which one I have it under. Like, but I have played it recently, and it's like rage quit. 3 minutes in, rage quit.
I've had a few rage quit NES games recently. Super Contra being one of them. It's a game that is incredibly punishing if you play it single player. If you die, you basically just can't finish the game if you die in a certain spot of a level. If you don't have the power-ups, you just can't progress. If you play 2-player, it's forgiving enough to actually be an okay game.
Right. You actually, Super Contra is definitely one of those ones that you have to play 2 players. I don't know many people that can play that one and defeat it single player.
After I think 16 hours of streaming the game, ended up only getting to the end of stage 3 or 4, and just gave up on it.
Wow. See,
it demands pixel perfect perfection from you. You need to know exactly what's coming, when it's coming. You have to pre-shoot things that are about to appear on the screen.
Yes, yeah. Contra has never been a very forgiving game.
Except for the more recent ones. Apparently, they're just absolutely easy.
Oh, really? I haven't played anything since Super Contra.
Well, There's a couple of ones in the Super Nintendo era, Sega era that are good. Other than that, yeah,
Okay,
I
okay.
wouldn't play the old stuff on NES.
No, no. One question I had set aside here for us is, what is your guys' viewpoint on what Nintendo is trying to do with retro games of theirs?
Oh, their
Like,
subscription model for their online?
yes.
Hit or miss, honestly. Like, on one hand, I appreciate that they are putting forth the effort to get a lot of their stuff back on their console again. I like what they've done with some of the updates that you can rewind the game, so it's a lot more forgiving for some of those really punishing older games. On the other hand, I don't like the concept of having to pay for different tiers of subscription services, just like Sony is also doing with their PlayStation Plus. They've added 2 more tiers that are about to roll out as well.
Yeah, the PlayStation Plus is in competition with the Xbox model of the Game Pass Ultimate. That's why Sony's done that, is to compete with that. But they quite clearly said with Sony, there will be no day one release on theirs, which has made me go, what's the point?
Not to mention, Sony's been making a lot of interesting changes with their censorship lately too. They censor just about every Japanese game that's got even a little bit of cleavage these days. Whereas Nintendo will release that same game without asking for any changes at all.
That
These are the
makes
same
me laugh.
companies that aren't these the same companies that developed and released a game called Manhunt back in the day, where you walked around with the severed head on your pocket? Okay, I don't know. I don't. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So what's your viewpoint on what Nintendo is trying
I
to
have
do with their
no.
subscription?
I have no opinion on it because I really don't know. So I'm just
I'll
gonna
toss
defer
out
to
Slay.
And I say
No,
pros and
you were right.
cons. I like what they're doing. I just don't like what it costs.
I will say that it's a good way of preventing video games from being forgotten. It's a bad way of doing it.
Fair.
I mean, they could re-release them. Or re-release a master copy of those style games. Like, oh, here's 100 Nintendo games for X amount.
Why would I pay for a subscription for 100 old Nintendo games?
Oh, no.
When I can get an emulator and essentially get them all free anyway.
Because that's not exactly legal.
That's not
legal. We do not say we can get them for free. We can't get them for free.
No, only the ones that I physically have the copy for, I'm able to emulate.
Yes. As long as you officially own it, you can play it.
Exactly.
And they're trying to reverse that law too, hey?
Of course they are. Doesn't surprise
Specifically me. Nintendo.
Yeah.
Nintendo has been trying to get that law reversed.
Yeah, they've been lobbying that for probably
since I think the 80s.
Decades.
I think they've tried since the 80s because they were like, we want the ability to do this, but copyright law won't allow us.
Well, who do they think they are? Disney?
Yeah.
Well, they're not.
Well, the video gaming industry is bigger than Hollywood, though.
They have a theme park. They have a theme park now,
Disney.
and they're going to have another one here soon. Nintendo.
Yeah.
We do have one question so far, and it's from Geeky. She asked, which retro game or games would you like to see re-released or remastered? and that is
Star Fox.
Star Fox.
Star Fox actually does make a lot of sense because
I
whether
love
you
that
talk
game.
about the Super Nintendo or the N64 versions, they run at a staggering 8 to 15 frames per second.
Right, right.
So if you could get that game upscaled and running at 60 FPS, it would be a far better experience and it wouldn't look like it's aged quite so poorly.
Right.
Well, I would gladly have Star Fox remastered. That would be Star Fox is a fantastic story. Going through it, having Star Fox and Star Fox 2 remastered, re-released, that would be perfect. But if I had to pick a re-release or slash remastered, definitely would have to be remastered. It would be the entire Warcraft series. I mean,
The failed
oh
attempt at Warcraft 3 Reforged.
no, not that. Ugh. I'm talking about
there's another
original
actual
Warcraft
that would
1.
be considered a retro game. Would be anything Warcraft related.
Actually, all 3 of them are retro. Warcraft 1, Warcraft 2, Warcraft 3 are all retro.
And I guess old World of Warcraft could be considered that as well.
Yeah.
WoW Classic.
But yeah, they did release WoW Classic, so.
Oof. A game that I would want to see remastered. I mean, this is a game that definitely doesn't need it, but there was a release of a Nintendo game in the last few years called Octopath Traveler. It has a really charming style. I would love to see some of the older Super Nintendo games, such as Chrono Trigger, redone in that style.
Ooh, Chrono Trigger.
As much as Chrono Trigger probably doesn't need to be touched, that slight graphical upgrade could do the game a lot of justice.
It's a great game too. Absolutely fantastic game.
Yeah. Now, okay.
All King's Quest games, just for Malcor.
I actually on
overhaul.
Actually on Steam. I was trying to remember which one of my many game libraries I have it. On my Steam library, I have King's Quest, Police Quest, Star Quest, Space Quest, and Quest for Glory. All 4 of those in my library, because I am a Sierra fanboy when it comes to the old retro Sierra style games. Now, could I ever see people play that on stream? No, because I don't think anybody would be able to set through that pixelated mess.
Didn't know they were responsible for Ultima 2.
Yeah.
I guess
Sierra has a lot.
Some of the older ones.
Sierra has a lot underneath their belt.
They sure do. What's the most recent stuff they've done? 2016, the King's Quest re-release, the epilogue stuff.
Yeah,
because they had done a total re-release of like the first 6 King's Quest games, or is that all there was 1 through 5 or 6 or something like that?
There's like 8 King's Quest in total.
I remember I think I had 1 through 6 on a Windows 95 disc.
Oh wow. I will say this, like, Sierra has not done much since, because at one point they were bought out by another company. And so the company, Sierra, completely disappeared. All those old games went into what we call the lost games media. Because think about it, there's a lot of retro style games that are gone.
Yeah.
gone completely because there's not a backup for it.
Mm-hmm.
Because there's an alternative.
And so like some of those lovely websites that we were talking about earlier that store those old lost medias, I wish I could give a few of those names out, but you know, I don't condone going to those places unless you own the physical copy of them.
Fair.
You gotta make sure that you're on the up and up, you know. You can't be downloading
Don't
commander
pirates.
oh god, what was the name of that game?
Don't pirate software, kids.
Yes, don't pirate software. You wouldn't pirate along now, would you?
Crimson, isn't that just the Pac-Man clone?
Yeah, that's the Pac-Man clone on the Odyssey. That was Odyssey actually is her oldest retro style game. She's like, I like these, and it's like when you think about the amount of games that are gone now, it's so sad. Do you guys have any questions or comments that you'd like to bring up?
Do either of you guys have an all-time favorite game from the retro era?
Ooh, favorite game, like 20 years or older. Dungeon Crafter.
Oh. PC game.
Yeah. Yeah,
It's like,
it is a PC game. It's like one of the best PC games ever out there. It's like the first two came out, was fantastic. Was waiting for a third one, then I think Bullfrog got bought out by a company and that entire franchise completely disappeared. That or Populous.
Okay.
Populous was a good one. Yeah.
I would like to see
Spore-
Populous
the old
remastered.
Spore was a good game too.
Ooh.
Yeah. I don't know. Like, I guess is criteria for all-time retro favorite a game that I would still play today, or is it just one that
Either something that
I
you've put
have
more hours
vivid?
into or beat more times than anything else?
I would say, yeah. Oof. I've beaten a lot of games. SimCity, probably the original SimCity, um, which I put so many hours in. Yeah, those were experiences for sure. Would I play it again today? Hell no. Because quite frankly,
Fair.
City Skylines is 100% better.
Yeah, that would be SNES or PC SimCity. There was
Yeah.
actually
Yeah, it was.
there
We
was an
played it PC.
NES SimCity that was actually released, and it's really only like half a game.
I don't
Yeah,
feel like you can really
we
play a
pretend the
city
NES
builder.
one doesn't exist.
Yeah, I don't think you can
Uh,
play a city builder truly effectively on a controller. That's just me personally. Um, yeah, it was on the Windows 95 system back in
Mhm.
the day.
yeah,
Where you
I would
take
agree. I
out
would
a
agree that the city builders have gotten so much better since SimCity, the original
They're amazing.
SimCity. But
Absolutely amazing.
SimCity was ahead of its time.
Oh, I mean, it's probably one of the single biggest names in simulation games
Yeah,
Till Civilization
ever,
came out.
because it just, well, I actually would say that Civilization probably got a lot of its ideas, or a lot of its thought process regarding creating a simulation game from the original SimCity. I mean,
Yeah.
that was kind of the first simulation type game that really ever came out, or at least had a big popular following.
Right.
And I think a lot of stuff spun off of it personally. But I don't know. There may be other games out there um, that had as big of an impact. I don't know though. I know for me personally, that was the game I played, and that was the game that prompted me into loving simulation games.
Yes, the earliest city building game was a text-based game called the 𝗬𝗵𝗫𝗀 game in 1964.
Cheese and rice.
1964. Talk about
1964.
insanely retro.
Yeah,
I was looking it
text-based.
up. Yes. SimCity.
SimCity is like is the most conventional one we know of. It's on the most consoles, and that one released 1989.
Yep. And Civilization, the original Civilization, was 1991. So 2 years after SimCity.
SimCity 1 released on 22 different platforms.
Yeah. Talk about the most amount of releases. I don't think there is a
Blazed a
game that
trail,
has
didn't
ever...
it? Blazed a
It
trail
kind of did. It kind of did.
for simulation games. That's for sure. Because I remember through those early PC days, right, when you finally started getting things you were talking about, Malcor, like Populous and Spore, where all of a sudden, you know, that list that I have over there, where you can start, instead of building a city, now you're building a yacht. Now you're
Right.
building a restaurant. Now you're building, you know, living beings, right? In Popular and Spore, where you're building a planet. You know, and now we've gotten to the point where the games are so much more in depth. But I really think that kind of spurred a lot of the simulation type of popularity. The SimCity was a great game. And as soon as you learned how to take out a -% loan, then you were really in the money. And that was when the game really opened up to you.
Yes,
There
negative
was a trick.
percentage loans.
Yeah, there was a trick you could do. It was a common cheat, but it was a trick.
Oh, I know.
Where you had to like take out a loan using the shift key or something. I don't remember how it worked. But then
You got paid to take out the loans.
Yeah, you took out a loan at like -% and it essentially paid you.
That's awesome.
Like, hey, I don't want to pay this loan back. I think I'll keep it.
Right?
That sounds fine.
Yeah. So
the good old silly stuff that we could cheat on.
Yeah, the good old days. But
how about a least favorite game? How about something that should have just been burned with fire?
I know you have better examples, Slane, I think, than probably anybody, because you've played like
I have played a few.
What is the game called? 5-Yard Fight, 10-Yard Fight.
Oh,
it was an old NES game. One of the worst sports games I've ever played in my life. Absolutely should have burned it. That was horrible.
Backyard baseball.
Baseball.
Backyard baseball. That game, oh my god, they should have never made it. It's like, here, kids, let's play some baseball. All right, now here's Ken Griffey Jr. That's part of your team now. What?
All right, here's my game then. Donkey Kong 64.
King Kong 64.
Okay.
Donkey
I can't
Kong.
talk with you anymore right now, Slane. You've upset me. You've upset my Donkey Kong love.
Don't get me wrong. Donkey Kong Country games are phenomenal, but DK64 is just an abomination of a game.
I will give you that. That game. Well, I love Donkey Kong, and it's like, better yet, Donkey Kong bongos.
Oh, Conga? Conga Beat? I wish I had honestly gotten the chance to try one of those.
You do this, and you're barely moving.
Yeah, there's like some
Like,
very specific
oh, it's
rhythms and
like,
stuff that you got to do to it. I've seen it on a speed run one time, but other than that, I've never really gotten the chance to play with those or anything.
yeah, it's definitely one of the weirdest games. One of our retro stores around here, before they went out of business, had a set of them, and I was like, man, I just want to get them just so I can say I have them. And like, Crimson keeps reminding me, we live in a small spot, so we don't have room for that type of stuff. You're absolutely right. The unlimited funds code that you entered the first tax window. Yes, yes, that's true. SimCity. The unlimited funds code. On the SNES. Now, here's the thought. Do you guys miss the old, let's put in random codes inside this game just to see if people can find them to give them unlimited stuff in the retro style games? Because we don't have that pretty much anymore. It's like,
Yeah, there's very little that actually does that, and if it does, it's actually just in a menu for accessibility options.
Right. Nowadays, it's just like setting in menus, but like the good old days, it's like, oh, we'll put in this secret code right here just so that if they can find it, then good on them. I miss being able to like track down those hidden gems, you know?
Actually, there was a game that I played very recently that actually did pay homage to that kind of stuff. It's a retro styled game called Infernax, and if you enter the Konami code on the front page, you get a Contra character.
Oh my
Oh,
god.
jeez.
So instead of this medieval guy with a mace and a shield, you have a machine gun.
Nice. That's pretty.
The
I
Konami
like how they
code,
do the jokes.
the most recognized cheat code, the Konami
Absolutely.
code.
Now you just change the coding for cheating. Right?
Right.
Now you just
Yeah.
go into the base coding of the game and just reprogram it or add different lines.
Or
So
pull
Yeah,
up
now
your
you have
hex
crackers
editor.
just opening up games and changing code values on their own.
Right.
Or writing scripts or applications to do it for you.
Yep.
Right. I'm gonna see if there's any more questions in the chat real quick for us. I mean, we've hit about an hour. I feel like we all could go on for many decades on retro games and random tangents off of it.
Oh yeah,
go-
for sure. There's lots to talk about.
If we go for decades, though, the games I play today become retro. So
This is true.
God, yeah.
So then you'll just have to be playing that eternal game of catch-up.
okay, all right. So
Well, think about this. Think about this. Soon Minecraft will be retro.
I mean,
And when was Minecraft released?
12 years ago.
but if we're talking about generations, though,
May 17th, 09. Ooh.
Is that true?
14 years.
Wow. I get okay. So I do have one other question then. So Slane, if a retro game is defined by it being 3 generations or older, how will today's games be defined because they're on the PC? You know, so how does a PC game get defined by that generational definition?
Well, in a lot of ways, I believe it would have to do with how much support the games still get.
No, if that's the case, then Minecraft will probably never hit.
Well, Minecraft is a constantly evolving beast, so it's not something that you can very well call retro at any given point, unless
okay. If you're playing the
original
old beta,
Minecraft is just absolutely.
If you go back to the original beta, which you can play on their launcher, that would be the retro style of that game.
Pretty much.
Oh my god.
So maybe with PC games, we're actually talking about updated releases, right? Release versions
Mhm.
when it comes to retro versus platforms or generations, right? So the generations in this case are going to
like
be
what I
different
would
versions.
like what I would say with PC, it becoming retro would be more along the lines of, is it still coming out? Not that you can still get it. Is it still coming out? Is it still popular?
I guess we
And
don't
like
really call PC games
community,
retro per se. We call them classic games. Things like
well, yeah.
Duke Nukem and whatnot that could be called retro, but also we call them classic games because they're on PC.
Yeah, I think so, because I I think, yeah, PC would be definitely a different beast altogether when it's classifying retro. Which Crimson's like, why not just set it up now? We schedule round 2 of this retro conversation. Which sounds fine by me. It's up to you guys.
I mean,
TBD.
yeah, TBD for sure.
TBD.
We'll
We can
talk about
definitely
it.
talk about it.
TBD. TBD. Definitely TBD. We're going to put that there. We're going to put a pin in it. Hopefully it's not next year, because that would be season 2. Although that would be a reason to turn in next season. So since there is no more questions, I'm going to state this. For those that watch this on YouTube, please give this a like, subscribe, share it to your favorite friends. On your favorite podcast, listen to it, share it. And if you're listening to it on iTunes, give it a 5-star rating. It does help the growth process out. I think that is everything right now. So, Slane, thank you for being here today.
Thanks
for
for
your
having me.
first time. Hopefully, I didn't scare you.
Oh heck no.
And apparently, I didn't scare Mahler away from the last time. Darn it.
Yeah, I know that beard's getting close though. I'm really scared. I love you.
Hey,
I
I trimmed this
appreciate
up.
you.
I trimmed this up since last time.
I didn't. Malcor, thanks for having me. I appreciate
Not
you,
a
brother.
problem, my man. And yeah. And I want to thank everybody that showed up in chat today for the podcast. And until next time, later, Gators.